Hello, hope everyone's doing well. So tonight, two subjects. One, growth mindset, and two, chain of command. Growth mindset is an idea that students are taught both in CCSD and other school systems. The idea behind a growth mindset is that everyone makes mistakes. The trick is to recognize when you make mistakes, learn from them, go forward, but don't repeat them. So, I'll give you an example. Say someone is in a conversation, a student, and they say to somebody, well, you're dumb. And that other student becomes offended because no one likes being called dumb. The teacher says to the student that called the other student dumb, you shouldn't do that. You should apologize, and then we can move on. Now, if the student says, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that, I didn't mean to, I apologize, let's move on. That's a good example of the growth mindset. If the student says, well, I didn't call them dumb, and the teacher says, but I heard you directly say it, and the student says, but I didn't call them dumb, and you better watch how you talk to me. That's a very poor example of the growth mindset. It shows no ability to recognize the mistake that you've made, no ability to learn from it, and no ability to move on. During the February 10th, 2022 school board meeting, at one point, Superintendent Benavidez used the phrase spoon feed in relation to making sure that staff members and students who wanted and were eligible to receive a higher level mask got them. This offended some of the school board members. I personally tend to agree with their assessment of the situation. It was a poor choice of words, at the very least. When this was pointed out to the superintendent, he denied it. If anyone cares to look at the board YouTube video for that night, go to our 1 minute 55 minutes, watch approximately 5 to 10 minutes, and you can see the entire exchange. But it definitely happened. The superintendent denied that he ever used the words. Now, if he had said, I'm sorry, that was a poor choice of words, I apologize, can we please move on? That would be one thing. But instead, he chose to deny that he ever said such a thing, even though two board members had observed him saying it. One had even noted it directly in writing. And the record of it is there for anyone to see. And I've yet to hear him come out and apologize to anyone. And I watched his most recent superintendent update, at which point he could have very easily said, I had a very poor choice of words, I'm sorry, and I hope that we can move forward. Could have been as simple as that. That would have been a good example of growth mindset, something that all the students in CCSD are encouraged to have. It's also something that leadership requires. The ability to learn from your mistakes, to recognize them. And if you can't recognize when you've made a mistake, if you're so defensive, if you have no ability to admit that you might make a mistake, which every single person in the world does, myself included, anyone watching this video, we've all made mistakes. The trick is you have to recognize when you've made them and admit to them. So, that's growth mindset. Now we talk about chain of command. And there may be some people who are thinking that maybe concentrating so much on the wording is non-productive. Well, let's talk about why this subject was brought up. It was about the ability of staff, students, teachers to access higher quality masks that are available at the warehouse and apparently have been for a few weeks, and then not being at the school sites. The superintendent has repeatedly noted that the site supervisors, the principals at the schools, are able to request the masks. Well, that begs the question, have the teachers been made fully aware, even if that takes multiple times, by their principals that the masks are available for request? If I am able to claim a $5,000 lottery ticket, but I don't know that it's out there, it's going to be very hard for me to receive that benefit. I have to be aware of it. So my question is, wouldn't it have been easier in the beginning for the superintendent to say directly to his employees, the principals, make sure the teachers and other staff know that these are available? Because if not all of them were aware, then that's a failure of leadership and a failure in the chain of command. Because that would have been a very simple fix that could have been taken care of some time ago. And it's the responsibility of that chain of command to take care of that. Leadership comes from the top. Speaking of chain of command as well, during the school board meeting, the superintendent seemed to take great umbrage. He was offended that the school board at one point said to him, you could do a better job at taking care of the leadership. He didn't seem to like the fact that someone said, your teachers. The school board has one employee. One. The superintendent. It is not the school board's responsibility to send out messages to communicate with the staff at each school. They place that responsibility in the hands of the superintendent. This administration is very fond of pointing out that people need to follow a chain of command. At least personally, I think that there seems to be some question about what that chain of command actually is. And that's troublesome. There's another school board meeting on Tuesday of this week. I hope that everyone who can shows up. Engagement is required at this time, probably more than any time in recent memory for people, for all of the students, for all of the staff, and to help the leadership of CCSD live up to a growth mindset, to learn from the past, to make better decisions moving forward. As always, I hope everyone's doing well. Please, wash your hands, social distance, wear your mask. If you haven't already, get your vaccination, please, and get your booster if you can. Thank you so much. Have a great night.